little bit more. How did you start painting? What inspired you?
Well, first off, it's always sunny in my mind. I tend to be a very positive person, and that might have something to do with where I was raised in Southern California along the coast. And also, after I got out of art school, I traveled around the world for a year and visited all these countries. Well, it was 19 countries in total. And
Wow.
when I returned to Los Angeles, I started to look for a way to how could I continue to be painting or create art and also support myself. And my search began because I didn't have a studio space, and I was working part-time as a floral designer, and I set my schedule up so I would wake up and work from 8 to 1, and then I would just hop in my car, drive to the coast, set up my studio outside and overlook this mobile home park. And I didn't really think about it being something of great significance. It was just I was working with what I had at the time.
Yeah.
And also continuing that thrill of adventure and getting in the car and driving somewhere and seeing what happens. I would meet a lot of neighbors that would come and walk by as I was working on things. And oftentimes there wasn't really much to talk about because I would just be starting something, and people would make all kinds of questions that made me feel, somewhat question what was I doing? I don't know. I'm just out here painting. Do you mind? And it looks like a big mess when you're starting. And as I continued to just search for the meaning of life and what defines my home and what is Los Angeles, what is California, what is the United States, what are we looking for? And as I was looking across this mobile home park and the ocean, I felt this sense of peace and belonging, and I just started to make paintings about that.
It's great to hear that your passion has been able to afford you this is your full-time career. Mm-hmm. And so that's really, I think, inspiring, especially to a lot of listeners out there who've always dreamt of becoming an artist, that it can be done. But I love the fact that you look at the community, the manufactured housing, or this community as inspiration for your art. And because it is a home, it is a community. And so you equating your purpose being in LA back to this, subject that you're painting is really fascinating.
Yeah, I noticed that I had to get really quiet and ask myself, what do you want?
Yeah.
Because we can kind of do anything if we set our mind to it. And there are so many distractions in the world, especially today, to steer us off course, whether it's a relationship or more money or other people needing us to do them favors. And all those things can really pull us away from that time that we set aside to create and build towards our passion and towards our goals. And I always just really made it a priority. And I would be out there painting on holidays. If I was working on something, I would stay longer than I wanted to. Sometimes I work 7 days a week. Yeah. Now my studio hours are, I don't even know. I get so into it, I forget what my name is.
Oh, I love that though. And I love it's not like an 8 to 5. It's like when you're creative, that's when your hours are.
Yes, it's like, who cares? Let's just go for it and see what happens. So
that is
I
awesome.
feel really blessed to now. I've had this studio space for 12 years now, maybe it's 13. And I noticed a significant jump from the quality of work I was making. I could work larger. I also took myself more seriously because I had to be accountable. You know, I had space that I had to pay for, which means that I had to do something about letting people know what I'm creating.
I love the fact that you see the homes and they're bright. You can kind of even see that there's some sun that's even reflecting off the roofs. And so you don't typically see these types of homes painted in that sort of respect. So is there anything particular about the architecture or things that you love to paint about these homes, or is it the community in general?
It's both, I would say. The architecture lends itself to being highly challenging as a subject matter because there are so many shapes and angles. And then once you start getting into color, then it becomes a challenge to see how to balance color, what to accentuate, what to kind of neutral and tone down. And it keeps me on my toes as an artist. And I remember when I would be working outside, I would mix up paint and have no idea where I was going to put it because I'm looking out at this really busy landscape. And I thought, well, which house was that for? I don't even know. Who cares? I'll just put it over there and move on. And I like that sense of you can't really be that controlling because it can kind of control you. Yeah. And I feel like it's a conversation with the subject matter where it teaches me to be humble and to not be super confident about what I'm able to accomplish. And every time I start another painting, even though I've been working with the subject matter for almost 20 years, I still feel like it's the first time.
And do you get to meet a lot of the residents in the community? Are they ever subjects in your artwork?
I do like to capture people in the afternoon walking their dogs or being at the beach, visiting with neighbors. I have met a handful of the people who live in the various parks, and they just love that I'm painting them. Some of them are artists themselves or writers. And it's always fun to be able to share with them the series and what I'm accomplishing here, and kind of like independently of the way they see it, because it's home to them. And then to see somebody painting it might not be the first thing on their mind. Yeah. Because oftentimes people might crop out the mobile home park and just focus on the ocean.
Yeah. And that I'm curious about that too, because I mean, it is central to your painting, the one behind you.
The work is very much self-portraiture. And I wore a uniform until I went to college. And I remember having a conversation with someone who said, how do you know who your friends are if you all look the same? And I realized that that's kind of like the mobile home park, and all the structures are the same, more or less. And yet we're all decorated differently on the inside. And I like that idea of you have to spend time with people to get to know them and really like go inside and get to know that person's spirit. And I see it as a metaphor in that way of how I've gone about living my life, and not to judge people based on what they're wearing or driving or where they live, because I'm more interested in the quality of person and what the person's thinking about and learning and listening to. So that definitely has a huge impact on why I make these paintings. I also find that the symbolism behind them. I've had people say to me, why are you painting mobile home parks? Mm-hmm. And I just don't even really know the answer anymore.
Yeah. Well, they're beautiful paintings. They're gorgeous.
It makes me happy.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to know is it makes me happy, and I'm not taking any kind of political position, but I do like the idea that you can be rich without being wealthy. I just like how they're very honest and simple and yet beautiful.
Yeah. So who's your clientele? Is it just anyone who falls in love with the piece, or?
Well, that's really a layered question, just because I find that like early on I was showing friends and family, hey, check out this. And my paintings would be wet in the trunk of my car. And those are kind of like the early adopters who were on my journey. And then with the introduction of cell phones, I've been able to text people along the way what I'm working on. And when I finish a painting, my mother was an artist before she had my brother and I like to and she does watercolor and calligraphy, and I like to share with her what I'm working on. I think it's really important to have some kind of support system when you are creating, and the collectors, I mean, they make this possible, right? Yeah. And they're so grateful that I'm doing this work. They're really excited about it. And some of them are beach dwellers. They have beach houses, surfers. I've tapped into that community, and people who love Los Angeles and want something in their home to inspire them or in their office. And then there's mobile home park owners themselves who like to put my work in their offices, boardrooms. It's become an opportunity, especially with Zoom calls, to have it on the back wall. So it becomes an opportunity for branding and identity. Yeah. That person shows a level of contributing to the artistic community, and it levels up their game in a way, because it's impressive to see somebody with this big mobile home park painting behind them. It shows a level of success and commitment to the industry from that point of view. And also, I'm going to be in a show that's opening next week on November 14th at Gallery 7811 on Melrose. And that is a selection of several different paintings. So there's going to be 2 swimming pool paintings, a flower piece, and a mobile home park painting. Yeah. And I never really considered to show them all together, but somehow they just work.
Oh, that is awesome. Yes. So that's on November 14th.
November 14th is the opening reception at Gallery 7811 on Melrose Avenue.
You know, when I was growing up, I loved art. It was one of my favorite classes. I was in art league. I did all of these things. So who would you say is your favorite artist, or who inspired you? That's probably a loaded question, but I'm always curious.
Well, it's all about discovery, right? And there's certain paintings or experiences with art that solidified that I really wanted to go for it myself. And I remember years ago being in San Francisco at the De Young Museum, and I was just blown away by this Amish quilt exhibition. Yeah. It was the display. They were hanging beautifully lit in very dimly lit rooms, so you could really see the work on both sides of the quilts. Yeah. And I walked out of that, I think I was 12 or 13, and said to my mom, I want to be an artist. I want to do that. And then when I was traveling, I had the opportunity to see the Monet water lily paintings in this room in Paris, and I don't know the name of it, but it's this curved walled room, and I've 7 or 8 or 9 giant Monet paintings. Just blew my mind. I love Jeff Koons' dog.
Yep.
The puppy.
Yep.
I saw it in Berlin in front of the museum. Awesome. Just like, what is it? 2 stories high of plants. It was a dream come true, being a complete plant freak myself. Right now at Hauser and Wirth Gallery, there is a Eric Fischl painting that is so magnificent. It's one of his swimming pool paintings. And I've been to the gallery 4 times already. I'm so excited that painting is here, and it's not for sale. It's part of a private collection. Just having that opportunity to see that painting in particular, and study it and spend time with it. So I don't really see it as a favorite artist as much as a favorite painting or some kind of experience that really moved me. And I think that that's why people buy art. I had somebody come by very spontaneously yesterday. I don't even know her. And she was outside. It's gated here, and there's a inner courtyard. So she was calling me from outside the gate, and I happened to pick up the phone. I was here, but I was about to step out, and she came in and started telling me about how she was so moved by my swimming pool paintings, and her husband loves to swim, and he has a bad knee, so he's in the pool every day, and it's his birthday. And during the pandemic, they just felt so soothed by their swimming pool and spending time looking at it and reading by it. It was like a family member to them. And I think that when she saw this painting that I pulled off my shelf, she's like, that's it. I have to have that painting. Yeah. And she was so excited to give it to him. And that just means a lot to me as a creator, that what I'm doing resonates with people and makes them feel something that they weren't feeling before they saw the work. It can give us a sense of place. Where are we at in our lives, or what were we thinking about, or what was the world like? And art has the power to transform not only how we feel, but also it connects so many people together. And I really like to be a part of that process.
It's so cool to see all the different innovation, ideas coming out of the art world. And we are just so thrilled, Marisa, to have you on today, and such an inspiration. I want to go home tonight and actually start painting.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my work with your audience. And before we leave, I just wanted to add, I did want to make 2 recommendations to your audience of books that I was really inspired by. This is The Creative Spark by Michael Shapiro. He interviews musicians, writers, explorers, and other artists, and how they found their inner voice and their creativity. And it's just such a great read. You could pick it up and put it down, especially if you're waiting for your children during carpool or you're in line somewhere. And then the other one that I really found was super exciting was Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, and again, it's just, she talks about creativity from a writer's perspective and opportunities, and I just love both of these books were very inspiring.
Well, Marisa, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining today, and best of luck with your opening show, and sounds exciting. We can't wait to see more and see all the great, beautiful pieces of artwork you're going to be producing.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I really appreciate Yes Communities taking an interest in my work and what I'm doing.